Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new. And without wasting any time, let's get to the video.
Imagine the future, a utopian world of peace and prosperity perhaps. Well, not according to the Bible. The biblical future is a very different place. A world filled with chaos, calamity, and the occasional Antichrist. But what actually happens in the Bible's vision of the future? Why is it so dark and apocalyptic? In the Bible, there are 5 major predictions about our future. 5 biblical prophecies that remain unfulfilled. And in this video, I'll show you what they are. This is the future according to the Bible. Prophecy 1. The return of Jesus. One prediction the Bible makes is that Jesus will return. And no, I'm not talking about the Easter story, where Jesus rose from the dead after his crucifixion. The Bible says Jesus is set to return again sometime in the future, in an event known as the Second Coming. Throughout the New Testament, there are multiple references hinting at Jesus' return, but probably the most detailed is in the Gospel of Matthew, where it's described as a pretty spectacular event. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. In the Bible, there are a number of texts that describe Jesus returning to judge the souls of the living and the dead, an event known as the Last Judgment.
I remember Sunday school, when I was, younger, and I remember being taught that there are a couple different versions of this. I'm not really sure how many, but I feel like it depends on what kind of Bible you're reading, and it's always very confusing. So one thing that helps, to understand is basically just reading the different versions, then doing your research on it. At least, that's what I think.
Christ's return is a key theme in Christian theology, but also in Christian art. Perhaps the most famous depiction is Michelangelo's fresco in the Sistine Chapel. At the center stands Jesus, dividing the righteous who ascend to heaven from the sinners who are cast into hell. It's an apocalyptic prophecy, but when exactly does the Bible say this will happen? Well, it's purposefully left unanswered. Because the Bible doesn't say when Jesus is scheduled to return, Christians over the centuries have lived with the assumption that it could happen in their lifetime. And that brings us to today. The first major prophecy in the Bible still remains unfulfilled. But there's still time, of course. After all, before any of that happens, other events must unfold first.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with anybody claiming that Christ is about to return, because I remember not long ago there was some guy saying that in my country, and it caused a bit of chaos. Not exactly a few years ago, it was quite a while back, and people sold their houses, their furniture, and when it didn't happen, there was a lot of depression going around because people had lost everything. So you gotta be careful with these false prophets out here.
Prophecy 2. The Great Tribulation. The Bible's next vision of the future is when things start to get bad. Before the Second Coming, the Bible says the earth must descend into a period of turmoil, an event known as the Great Tribulation. The Gospels lay out 3 major signs that will mark this period. Warfare. Wars will increase across the world. People will hear whispers of conflict in distant lands. Disasters. Earthquakes will begin and famines will become more common. Persecution of Christians. Jesus' followers will be hunted. Many will fall away, deceived by false prophets and manipulators. During this time, the world will spiral into instability, lurching from one catastrophic event to the next. Other biblical texts expand on the Great Tribulation. Paul's letters describe a society in decline, where runaway greed, moral corruption, and selfishness run rampant. And while all of this sounds bad, and it is, war, disasters, and civilizational collapse have always been unfortunate features throughout human history, from the devastating Black Death to the horrors of the world wars. Earth can be a scary place, and yet, somehow, humanity has pulled through. In any case, the Bible predicts the future will be dangerous, but this is a sign that Jesus is about to return.
Yeah, droughts and wars are pretty common. I mean, especially, in specific, environments. They've been going on for a while. And you gotta, learn to appreciate the life you've had if you haven't experienced things like that. But yeah, there are a couple of theories as to why they were written this way, and one of them was that they were just reflecting on the times, they were living in. And, that's what shaped, their writings. But I don't know. Yeah, with things like this, you need to look for them yourself because there's a lot you can learn from it.
But before then, things are set to get a whole lot worse. Prophecy 3. The Rise of the Antichrist. Throughout the Bible, there are mentions of a mysterious figure known as the Antichrist. There are warnings about people who will use their power to deceive others. Perhaps the most graphic description of this Antichrist comes from the book of Revelation. Known simply as the Beast, it is described as follows. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. Despite its obviously monstrous appearance, this multi-headed creature will somehow charm the masses. Alongside the beast comes an ugly sidekick, a creature resembling a lamb, but with far more horns, known as the false prophet. This creature will enforce loyalty to the beast and make people pledge their allegiance by wearing the mark of the beast.
I feel like it is more metaphorical than anything else. Pretty sure he also understands this. But yeah, when I was younger, I really thought it was literal. I thought some seven-headed monster was going to show up one day. That thing used to keep me up at night. I had no business reading that when I was younger.
The infamous number 666. It's a disturbing vision of the future, but biblical scholars believe these descriptions are not meant to be taken literally. Instead, they are symbolic, meant to represent oppressive empires and systems that oppose God. It's heavy stuff for sure, but we're by no means done. 2 more remain. And it's here where predictions start to get far more specific. Prophecy 4. The Third Temple. In the Bible, there was once a building known as the Temple, which was at the center of the religion of ancient Israel. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians, then rebuilt, and then destroyed again by the Romans in 70 AD. However, according to prophecy, a third temple is supposed to be built, one far grander than anything that has come before. In the Old Testament book of Ezekiel, the prophet envisions a massive, intricately detailed structure and outlines the exact proportions of a giant temple, one that to this day has never been built. Today, the possible construction of a third Jewish temple remains a deeply controversial topic. The site of the original temple in Jerusalem is now home to the Dome of the Rock, a beautiful Islamic shrine. Constructing a new temple could mean its possible demolition. If building a third temple is part of the end of the world timeline, maybe we should exploit a biblical loophole and avoid its construction altogether.
I mean, what's meant to happen will happen. But yeah, I think they'll build it eventually. I don't know if it's in our timeline. But yeah, it would be interesting to see the controversies that come out of that and how it's going to affect, like society and the world, or at least the religious world. But yeah, I also read on this, and they must have really hated that temple, Like imagine how long it took to make one of those, especially way back then. it must have been devastating to see it destroyed not once but twice by these people. But yeah, what do y'all think?
Just a thought. Prophecy 5, Armageddon. You've heard the phrase, the war to end all wars, but Armageddon would truly be the war to end all wars. In several biblical texts, there is mention of a massive cataclysmic battle at the end of time, one led by Satan and the forces of evil, while the other led by God and his angels. There are various descriptions of this battle, but it is said to take place somewhere in the Middle East, specifically on the outskirts of Jerusalem. In the book of Revelation, the armies are said to gather at a place called Har Megiddo, better known as Armageddon. Interestingly, there are descriptions outside the Bible as well. One example comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the aptly named War Scroll, there's a vivid description of a final battle between the mysterious Sons of Light and the Sons of Darkness. Ancient texts like these provide a blueprint for some biblical stories and show just how widespread these dark prophecies were in the ancient world. The Bible is full of prophecies and predictions, and these 5 mark its loose ends, the unfulfilled prophecy, according to the Bible. Something you've probably noticed is that many of these images are overwhelmingly dark, from disasters and wars to multi-headed antichrists. Why are these predictions so frightening? In the years when these texts were written, many early Christian communities believed that they themselves were living in the end times, and they were simply describing the world around them, from corrupt Roman emperors to their own persecution. These frightening visions had a purpose. They showed early Christians that the chaos in their world was ultimately part of God's plan, one that would eventually lead the faithful to heaven. In this way, maybe the Bible's vision of the future actually provides comfort. Just as they were back then, these biblical predictions have remained relevant across time. While the Bible's vision of the future may be dark, it's always good to know what's out there. If you'd like to learn more, I've crafted together this survival guide to the biblical apocalypse, which explores the contents of the book of Revelation. Better to be safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, the lives they had lived during those times definitely, reflected on their writings. But who's to say that, they were not guided by, God or, something like that. But yeah, I don't know. When it comes to these things, it's better to, research yourself, so you can, learn more. Because there's a lot more to it than this short video, and the verses are very long and very detailed. So if you're interested, try to read it. I haven't read it in a while, honestly, a couple years actually. Maybe I'll go back and read it. Even if you're not like religious, it's pretty interesting to read these things. And yeah, that was a pretty interesting video. And the link to it will be in the description if you want to watch it without, some guy talking over the video. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next video.